Hey, everybody. This episode of Our Kids Play Hockey is brought to you by our title sponsor, NHL Sense Arena. Look, we all want our kids to succeed in hockey, but let's face it, finding training that's both effective and enjoyable can be a real challenge, and not to mention expensive and a total drain on time, especially if you have to drive to the rink, pay a private instructor. There's so many reasons that money gets spent on this game. But that's where NHL Sense Arena steps in. It's a virtual reality training game that brings the rink into your home that takes off-ice training to a new reality. It's designed to improve hockey sense and IQ, something that's lacking majorly in the game today for both players and goalies. And you get unlimited access to over 100 drills and training plans from top coaches and players that can be played anytime, anywhere, with drills approved by USA Hockey player and goalie development directors. Look, improving mental hockey skills at home has really never been more fun, and any hockey player that uses this is going to have a blast. All right. I've used this before on my own, and it feels like you're so immersed in an arena, you sometimes forget you have a headset on. And again, it's not being on the ice, but it allows you to work on some of these skill sets like scanning, as I said before, hockey IQ, looking around the rink, making the right plays, that getting those repetitions in now as a hockey player are super important for your development. So NHL Sense Arena is giving all the listeners an exclusive offer for $50 off an annual plan when you use our code Hockey Never Stops at checkout. Again, that's Hockey Never Stops. All you got to do is go to hockey.sensearena.com. Again, that's hockey.sensearena.com. Use the code Hockey Never Stops, and you'll save $50 on your annual plan of NHL Sense Arena. Make sure to check that out and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. How would you feel if you were at a game, at an NHL game, and they just asked you to jump in net halfway through the game? Well, that's what happened to our guest today, David Ayres, on Our Kids Play Goalies. Many of you will remember him. It was a Toronto Maple Leafs versus Carolina Hurricanes game where he was asked to step in the second half of the game. So we do discuss that on the episode, but as we do on Our Kids Play Goalie, dive into so much more about this man and his life as a coach, and how he sees the game. And he gives such great advice in this episode about the mental side of goalie, about the communication and the coaching of goalies at the youth level. A ton of gold in this episode, including a pretty cool chance to reminisce about one of the good memories of 2020, which was when he stepped in the net for the Carolina Hurricanes. So you're really going to enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Goalie. And also, if you haven't already, check out our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Make sure to share this episode with anybody you think might find value. Again, those 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts or Spotify really, really help us out. If you have not done so already and you have a moment to do that, we really, really appreciate it. But let's get you into the episode with David Ayres. This was a really fun one on Our Kids Play Goalie. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of the show where angles and squares are not just for math students. We're talking about Our Kids Play Goalie. Most of you remember our guest today as the man that defied the NHL odds when he was asked to step into the net at the age of 42 in the second period for the Carolina Hurricanes as they faced the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto in February of 2020, which is our last positive moment from that year. It's happened after both the Canes goalies went down with injury, thus activating the rink's e-bug. That's the emergency backup goalie, for those who don't know. The score was 3-1 to Carolina when he entered the net, and he left with a victory of 6-3 after facing 10 shots and logging 28 minutes and 41 seconds of ice time in the NHL. Of course, we're talking about David Ayres, someone who literally can call himself the man, the myth, the legend if he wants to. However, his story goes beyond the NHL and that fateful night in Toronto. David, who's a native of Whitby, Ontario, required a life-saving kidney transplant back in 2004, which he received from his mother. He is also currently the head coach of the Port Perry Lumberjacks of the Provincial Junior Hockey League and the owner of Backup Goalie Life, a lifestyle brand. We can't wait to dive into his story on this episode today. David, welcome to Our Kids Play Goalie.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's awesome.
No, it's awesome to have you, buddy. David, I always start with this question on these episodes. I know you come from a family of goaltenders. So tell us about how you ended up between the pipes. What was it a family tradition? Was it, these people do it, I have to do it? Were you forced in the net? How did you end up as a goalie?
It was basically default. I mean, my dad being a goalie, my older brother being a goalie. It was basically I was at the rink watching them all the time. And when I decided to play hockey, well, at first, obviously, when you're smaller, you have to play. You just play. Everyone kind of skates around and just plays out. But as soon as I could, I think I was 6 or 7 years old. I wanted to be a goalie, so I got oversized equipment that my brother used to wear.
Right.
and they just kind of threw me in the net. And I guess they thought that I had built-in goalie coaches with my brother and my dad being on my side. So
Yeah.
that's the beginning of my story right there.
Yeah, I'm at the point with my son playing goalie that I'm trying to get my daughter, who's younger than him, not to play goalie, even though we have the pads. I'm like, no, you skate out. You should shoot on each other because this is going to be great babysitting for me in the future. When you guys have arguments, I'll just tell you to go downstairs. So David, I do have to say, I mean, you must have the ultimate bragging rights now, even though you're the youngest in the net, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I don't usually use it. I mean, my brother coaches with me now in Port Perry too, so we never actually played hockey together or anything organized. So this was the first thing my brother and I got to do. But yeah, he throws that around more than I ever do. That's for sure. So
Right. You know what's funny is I'm a little brother. I think the best little brother revenge, which I say with a little bit of sarcasm, is not having to say it. They just know.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you know,
just let it be there.
yeah, it's
That's
just
it.
there. You just let them know that. So,
Yeah.
I do want to talk about it for a minute. So back in 2016-17, just to give everybody some context, every NHL team had to have an e-bug ready to play it at a moment's notice. So I'm actually curious, and I think our audience would be too, David, just how did you land in that role? Was it something you had to apply for? Did you want that? Was it something you fell into? Just what is the process to becoming an e-bug?
Well, I had already been the practice goalie for the Toronto Marlies before that. Backed up for them as well a couple times. So they knew me. I was on the ice all the time with the Marlies guys, and obviously a lot of the Leafs players that went through the Marlies system. So Kyle Dubas was the GM with the Marlies there for a while, and then moved up to the Leafs. And then Reed Mitchell, who's with the Leafs, was the guy who kind of phoned me and said, "Hey, we need an emergency goalie." They did use a couple of university kids as well, and then it was basically just kept me. I think I did, I don't know, 75% or something like that in the first year. I did a
Wow.
lot. And then I think I did all of the second year and the majority of the third year as well. So they just knew me. So they were just kind of like, here you go. We want you to be in there. We know that you could play with our guys because we see it every day. So that's how I kind of fit in.
I love that because it's building towards the next question that I'm going to ask. So for everybody listening, if you want to know more about his story in that night, there's plenty of information out there. We're not going to spend the whole episode talking about that night. As I said to David before the episode, he's done enough of that. He's spoken about that event. I want to dive into some deeper stuff. But with that event, this is a question I wanted to ask you. I love some of the knickknacks that came out of that story. You weren't wearing your own pads. You had a Toronto Marlies T-shirt on under the pads, I'm told, right? You got a little bit of a water bottle shower after the game. Uh, you're part of Carolina Hurricanes lore. Your stick is in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I want to remind everybody, he's in the Toronto system in terms of his work, and he's playing for the other team. So we always talk about how goalies always need to be ready. I want to dive into the mental side of this. And again, I've heard you say things of kind of you just got in, you did it. But it sounds like from what you just told me, there was some muscle memory type prep for that night. You said you were with the Marlies, you obviously play goalies. Did you have to activate that? Did it just happen? How does someone in that moment mentally do that? Because like again, sometimes we see e-bugs, man, they play a couple minutes, you played half a game. You know what I mean? Like how did you mentally rise to that occasion?
Um, yeah, I mean, like I said before, I was on the ice with them a lot, so I was used to it. And actually, the way it worked with the Leafs, I practice a lot with them, so they do set plays a lot of the
Right.
time. Um, so you do kind of get used to it, and you kind of see it developing. There's a couple shots in that game that I kind of saw coming. I mean, a little bit of a set play. So I did have that advantage. And I always say this, if I played against Carolina, I would know nothing about them. So it would have been
Right.
a lot harder for me. And I think the Leafs guys kind of took it easy on me a couple of times when when they had a really good scoring chance. So I mean, I was lucky just being on the ice with those guys for so long before that I was kind of prepared a little bit. You can't ever prepare yourself for 20,000 fans that are screaming though. I've been on the
in
ice
in
there. It was
Toronto. In
yeah, in
Toronto. That's
Toronto.
like maybe the highest stage in hockey, to be fair.
Right. So it's the place was lit up and we had practices and stuff like that. They try to make it as obviously realistic as possible when you're at there practicing. So I've seen that, but yeah, stepping onto the ice was a little different with all the people and the buzz. And actually, at one point, it felt like the place was shaking underneath my feet. So that was the hardest part mentally to get over. Just not wanting to. You want to look around and take it all in, but you want to focus at the game at the same time. So really, I don't remember too much about what went on in the crowd once the game started.
Yeah.
You just kind of focus right on the game, and it's hard to go in cold. No prep. You don't warm up in the back, or you don't stretch. You don't ride the bike. You don't do anything. You just kind of put your gear on and you're watching the game, and then next thing you know, you're in the net. So you don't have that time to mentally prepare for a game like that, or a position that you're put in like that. So, and I'm traditionally a slow starter. That's probably why I didn't play anywhere really too much before that. Because even my buddies now that I play in a beer league laugh at me because they'll score 2 or 3 goals right off the hop, and then I play a lot better for the rest of the game. But mentally, you just have to get there and do your job. Essentially, that's what you're there for.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it again. We talk about this on the show about just muscle memory, and that the preparation for moments is years in the making, right? And it's not just that you became the e-bug in that situation, you're in the net, but you had to draw on it. And it sounds like you just kind of let your body do the work, right?
Yeah,
In that situation.
and the funny part about that is that in the second intermission, I just wanted them. I said to them on the ice, like, just get me to the second intermission. I just need to breathe and regroup. So I sat down in the second intermission, and James Reimer came and said to me, he's like, "Look, you're a goalie. This is what you do. You've been doing this for a long period of time. Block out everything else. Focus on the game and just play. Just do what you do. Just stop the puck. That's all you're there for, is to stop the puck, right?" And he was super nice about it. And he just, that was great advice for me, because coming from a guy like that, just telling me to kind of basically chill out and play my game, and that's huge, because sometimes you just need that. You just need someone who's got your back and just say, "Hey, like, just go out there and do your thing, have fun." And same thing with all the other players. I mean, at that level, they know how hard it is to play at that level all the time. So for someone to come in there and just kind of jump in and have to play that, obviously mentally it's tough on you, especially when you get 2 goals scored on you right away.
Yeah.
It's tough, right? That at that point, you either thrive, or you just get inside your shell and be a turtle, right? But so you don't. They had my back, and I was confident in them. And I said to them in the intermission, I said, "You guys score one more goal, I'll shut the door. We'll win the game." And they looked at me like I was crazy. But we ended up doing it. I mean, but that's the confidence that they gave me, and I kind of gave it back to them. And if you saw them play in the third period, how good they were, it
They were
was
great.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a ton. I didn't have a ton to do. I didn't have any. Well, there's a couple of good scoring chances, but nothing. Like bang bang tic tac toe plays against me. So I was lucky that way, that they had my back pretty good on the ice. So yeah, and then afterwards, I still talk to them. I was down in Carolina like a month ago, and you see some of the players, and they still remember you, and they still they say hi, and we have a little chat. So it's cool. You just kind of form a family after something like that happens.
That's really special. I'm told, I don't know if you can talk about this, but the rumor is there's being a movie being made about this. Is that something you can dive into, or no? Is that secret in
Yeah.
Hollywood type deal?
Well, I mean, it's in the making, that's for sure. I mean, there's definitely a contract stuff out there for the movie. So it's obviously not filming or anything yet, but that's the goal. I mean, we'll
Yes.
see how it goes, but that's the goal right now.
Yeah, no, goals would be bad in this situation, buddy. But
Yeah.
no, that is the objective for sure. Mike, I'm going to throw it to you in a second, but David, I'll tell you what's interesting about these moments, right? I remember obviously yours very well. I remember Scott Foster. What's funny is that I've watched so much hockey in my life, but I remember where I was when this happened. Like it's funny actually. My team and I, my production team, were coming home from a game in Connecticut. Actually, Mike, with the Connecticut Whale, and we were listening to the game on the radio in the car. But I
All right.
remember it. Like I remember the moment. So these are I'm bringing that up because these kind of transcend other moments in the NHL, right? And I think people wrongly shrug these things off, like, well, yeah. No, it's a big moment. I mean, that was an amazing moment, and when I think about it, it's you created so much hope for people watching and listening, and that it's like a dream scenario. Hey, these things happen. And again, look, the world shut down like a month later. You know what I mean? But as I joked in the open, it's probably like one of the last positive memories from 2020 that we had. But I want to. It might sound funny, but I want to thank you for that moment because it brought my team together in a moment. I remember it, and I think that probably not Toronto fans, but everybody else outside of there was very just happy with seeing you succeed, right? And I think that brings a little bit of sunlight to the human race that we often need at times. That, hey, look, we do actually feel happy for other people every once in a while, especially when that happens. Again, any Leafs fans listening, I'm sorry. I know that was a tough one for you. Mike, let me throw it to you, buddy, because I'm doing all the talking.
No, I was gonna say it was so much ammunition for my kids love that Steve Dangle guy, and I think the guy from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that's, I remember specifically when it happened because I had come home from coaching that day, and I get home and the kids were talking about it. They go, "Oh, you got to hear this guy, Steve Dangle, riffing the Leafs, and to how's the Zamboni driver, beat and it ringing in my ears when I bring up to my little guys that we had you on. They're gonna love it because they know you like they know any NHL player. Like they just know, just it's really, it is inspirational. And it's so different, right? As a goalie, because there is no emergency backup centerman. Like the goalie position is such a unique place to have this type of thing happen. And I know it spurred a lot of debate, right? Around like MLB, like, oh, can we have an emergency backup catcher or they're emergency backup quarterback? Like it's such a crazy thing that you're able to step into an NHL game in an NHL arena, have the mental ability and the physical ability, to play at that high a level. But what I love more than anything is showing the resolution of the players, right? The resilience of them saying, listen, we want to win with this guy and we have an opportunity and he's giving us hope. Like this guy coming off the bench is giving us hope that we can win a game. And I think that has to be just inspirational for a lot of players that have to get into tough situations at the last minute. So yeah, it is a great story. And I'm glad you're, continuing to make your moment, out of it. It's great.
Yeah, I think the best part for me is stuff like this, where you hear, I always say a lot of people can play the game of hockey. A lot of people get the opportunity to play the game of hockey, and a lot of people have a platform or a story where you kind of get to inspire people. I couldn't tell you how many messages I've had from people. Even recently, I had one a couple of days ago where a guy told me, "Hey, look, I used to be a goalie back in the day." He wrote to me on my Instagram and said, "I don't know if you're ever going to get this, but I was a goalie back in the day, and I stopped playing. And then once I watched your game, I decided to pick it back up."
Wow,
and he's like,
awesome.
I've been playing really good ever since I started back up." But that's the cool part about it, and you just get to talk to people who had the love for the game and may have lost it at one point, and they kind of watch my story, and they're like, "The guy was 42 years old, so why am I not doing it at 30? Why did I stop playing? I still got a long way to go." Hockey and sports in general are just so good for the social aspect as well. I mean, you go play beer league with your buddies and you guys hang out and the stories you have and talking about it, you've been playing for 15, 20 years or more together. And that's just the camaraderie of all of it. And then like I said, the people that say, "Hey, I was here when your game happened." That's the best because I've heard probably 100 different stories of where people were. It's so cool that just to know that it was all over the world in all different spots. So the opportunity to inspire people all over the world was kind of cool. Whether it was me or somebody else, it's still an inspirational story that kind of helped people sometimes kickstart even a different sport or a different like journey in their life. So that they can kind of do something that maybe they didn't think they had the ability to do, or they just kind of gave up on at some point, but now they've taken it up again and they're like, wow, I'm actually better than I thought I was. Right. So for me, that's really cool to hear all that kind of stuff.
It's the romanticism of sports, right? I mean, it's something that brings us all together. It's a special place in our hearts, not just talking about hockey right now, but sports has the ability to do that. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and I think David's proving that these goalies are way too coddled. They don't need all this warm up and all this mental stuff and the hours before. You can go in and play an NHL game without even being warmed up. So let's get the goalies, calm down a little bit with the pregame at 42 years old.
At 42.
Let's calm down about all the neediness of these goaltenders, for God's sakes.
For those of you listening that might be under 35, that's an amazing feat at 42. Because your body really just betrays you at 40 every single day of the week. If I'm not mistaken, you have the NHL record too for most senior goaltender to win a game, right?
Yeah, the oldest goalie to ever make his debut and win. So
yeah, I wonder if anybody ever wants to break that. We'll see. You'll be up there with Gretzky in 20, 30 years. Just see what happens. People have bionic arms, but Dave, first, thanks for letting us gush over that moment for a little bit. Again, I said it. I know you talk about it a lot. But there is a lot more to you than just one day in February. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about that, especially from just the goaltending position, because you're obviously an expert in that field. We said it in the open, you're the head coach with the Port Perry Lumberjacks in the Provincial Junior Hockey League. So here's a question for our audience, especially the coaches listening. What are some of the questions maybe that youth coaches should be asking about the goaltending position that they're not currently? And again, this kind of continues on our theme that goaltenders are often underutilized at youth practices, right? They're kind of an afterthought. So what are some questions we can ask as coaches or some actions we can take to be better at that?
I think for me, obviously running my own goalie school as well as coaching, and then being basically a practice goalie. I think one thing for coaching is that you got to make sure that you are including some time for your goalie to set up. So obviously, there's going to be drills that you're going to do where goalies are just going to get peppered, and that's just how it's going to be. I mean, you're a goalie. That's just how it's going to be. Sometimes you have to learn to just kind of take that, like take the shots, because it's not necessarily just for goalies to be on the ice. It's obviously the players are developing, so everybody on the ice is developing. So I think for coaches, I mean, it's hard to ask like a smaller child, like a kid who's 8 years old, 7 years old, like, hey, is there anything we can be doing to help you out during practices? But I think it's just the coach just needs to be aware when he's setting up his coaching plan. Hey, my goalie's going to have any time to really work on technique at all in this practice, or are they just going to get bombarded with shots all the time? Because you want them to be, when I do my practice, I want it to be more game simulated. For the most part, I do a couple warm-up drills real quick, and then any other drills I do after that. A lot of it is game simulation stuff. Well, I know a guy's not going to stand in front of that and have like 6 whacks at the goalie, for rebounds, and then they're not going to pass back and forth in front of the net 3 times. So it's one of those things where say you're doing a 2-on-1 drill. You make a pass, you take a shot, you kind of get out of the way, right? It's just one of those. If the rebound's out front, don't make the goalie go back and forth 3 times. He's gonna, blow his hips out or his knees out, and it's really not ever going to happen in a game for the most part. Someone's going to be on him. A defenseman's going to be there. Someone's going to be there to get that puck cleared out of the way. So it's just make it as realistic for a goalie as possible in a practice, instead of just kind of using him as a target.
Yeah, Dave, on that same note too, right? I mean, we also want to make sure that we're putting goaltenders in there's a lot of screening opportunities, a lot of redirects, a lot of real game like things. Like I'm a big follower of Steve Valiquette and his clear-sighted analytics kind of program, and watching about, really at the highest levels, at any level, that, play goalies that get shots taken from the top of the circle at their chest are supposed to make those saves. Like that's an easy save. So how do we make it harder for everyone? How do we make it for both learners, right? The shooter and the goalie, and creating more, chaos in front, maybe. And then, but I love the fact that you're saying, listen, that doesn't mean, well, in today's game, right? You watch like McDavid and Draisaitl do 3 passes back and forth, but in real hockey, that doesn't happen, right? But I think the ability to say, listen, guys, you can't come down the ice and make 5 east to west passes and expect the goalie to try to make that save. It's not fair to the goalie, and to your point, that's how people get hurt. But I think more importantly, it's like, make sure. I mean, I hear all the time about, coaches that talk about their goalies not battling and covering pucks and continuing the play. I'm like, well, I watched 7-year practices and they never have an opportunity to stop the puck and end the play. The play's always going. Like I hear coaches all the time, play it, move it. And then you ask your goalie not to do that in a game. I'm like, well, that's why we practice, right? So I love that, you got to create, the atmosphere in practice that's going to replicate the game the best. And then there are going to be times when, hey, listen, we're having a small area game here. We're doing something fun where it's going to be a little rapid fire. And maybe maybe you instruct your goalies, listen, you're just trying to stop that first puck. Don't be diving across the crease, to try to make, save 5, 6, and 7. Although our I realize our best goalie is going to do that, right? Because they're competitive. But I think that's a great way for youth coaches to know, like, you could have slower practices that replicate the game more and get positive reps, in what you're trying to teach.
100%. You're 100% right. I think the positive reps is exactly what you need. I mean, sure, there's going to be times, like you said, there's going to do rapid fire. You have to do some fun stuff. And so those fun drills could be, rapid fire shots or anything for that matter where the goalie is not going to see that in a game. But goalies also do love that, but they don't love it for an hour or an hour and a half practice of just being bombed. They want to do some stuff, like you said, work on rebound control. They want to work on fighting through a screen to see it. They want to work on second and third shots sometimes, and they want to be able to use their lateral movements to get there in tight. And that's the thing, is that a lot of coaches don't necessarily think like that, or maybe just haven't brought themselves to realizing, hey, like, we need to utilize our goalies a little bit more in a game situation in practice, so that when they're in a game, we don't look at them when they get a goal scored on them like, how did you not save that, or how did you not cover that? Well, because
Yeah.
like you said, you don't get a chance to cover it in practice because the next group is already coming down on you, so you have to recover real quick and get up and go. You don't get the chance to have a proper rebound control, cover it, put it in the corner, and then regroup back to your post or wherever the play may be. You just have to get ready for the next group to come down and rip it at you.
And I just want to emphasize what you said earlier. Coaches have a plan. If you wing it, most likely you can't build practices that benefit all your players, which includes your goaltender, right? So plan your practices out so that you're not, you tell your goalies, hey, listen, for these 25 minutes, we're going to be doing this. This is your time to track, stop, cover pucks, slow the whole practice down. This is your time. Here is going to be a little bit more my time, where I need to do this because I need to get my players to do more of this. So, but if you don't have a plan, nobody knows who's asking who to do what. And I think and on top of the plan, it's a time where, like, I know me, if I have a plan, if I have a goalie coach on the ice, that goalie coach then can look at my plan and say, okay, here's the run of the show. Here's where I can take the goalie out and work with them.
Right.
And here's where I can't. If you try to wing it, then the goalies don't get worked on either, right? So I think it's, if a goalie knows, hey, there's only one goal. Here's a 15 minutes of drills where it's only one goalie in the net, the other kid's sitting on the side. Well, that's the time he could be, learning and or doing something that's going to benefit their time on the ice. But without a plan, everybody kind of stands around, just waits, I guess.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like you said, if you pull a goalie out of a drill that only needs one goalie at a time, and there's even, I don't know, 15, like you said, 15 minutes, you split that 15 minutes up with your two goalies. If you do that throughout the season, that's a lot of time that your goalies getting some extra action and goalie coaching time, right? So, it might only be 7 minutes at a time in practice, but those 7 minutes add up throughout the year
Right.
when you have a goalie coach. That's what I do a lot of. For my goalie coaching, I actually go to practices, talk to the coaches, and they set aside some time at the beginning of practice, and then obviously I stay throughout the practice to kind of correct anything or jump in whenever I get a chance to jump in to help the goalies out. But I always want to make sure that I've got them kind of fresh and their technique is going real well before they jump into their main practice. And then obviously you just kind of you work with them at that point. And that's the best thing to do is when you have a goalie coach out there in practice, is let him work with the goalies at the beginning, so that way the goalie can take everything that he's learning at the beginning and use it for the rest of the practice. I see a lot of coaches who want to bring out a goalie coach and said, "Oh, we're going to do 40 minutes of whatever my practice. Oh, for the last 10 minutes, well, you can work with the goalie." First of all, the goalie's going to be tired, and he's not going to be able to use those skills in the rest of his practice because the practice is going to be over by the time you're done that. So
Right.
that's tough.
So, David, I want to ask this question to you. So, I like to put myself out there because I'm not a goalie coach. Again, I'm a coach, and I've learned as much as I can about that position, but I wouldn't call myself a coach. So, as my son's a goalie, I want to kind of do a little thing here of these are the things I'm saying to my kid. Are these appropriate? Are they incorrect? Are they correct? Not to kind of hope I'm right. I want to know, right? So, one of the things I remember when he first got out there. This is early on, but he would, if there was 5 kids with pucks, he'd be tracking all 5 pucks. And I said to him, hey, listen, Logan, that's his name. I said, in a game, you're only gonna have to track 1 puck. So if you're doing this in a drill, pick one and track that puck, right? Don't track more than 1 at once because you're gonna go nuts, obviously, or you're gonna hurt yourself. Is that a fair thing to say to him?
Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, there's only 1 puck on the ice at a time, but there's times you'll get drills where they'll shoot 2 pucks at the same time. For goalie drills, we can kind of do it. You have 2 guys side by side, and you'll shoot one obviously wide that's not going to hit the goalie, and you'll shoot one at the goalie.
Right.
So they're going to have to focus on which one's coming at you off the stick, right? So, and because sometimes you don't see the puck till the last second, So even off the stick, you don't see it. So you have to really catch it real quick and just kind of work on your tracking and your reflexes. So
Right.
yeah, essentially you want to just track the one puck. I mean, if there's a bunch flying around, and they're kind of at the beginning of practice, you kids always shoot on the net, and
Always.
goalies always want to save every single puck, and they're
Right.
just kind of diving in, and their hands are going everywhere. But yeah, just pick one at a time. Let the other ones go on the net. Who
Right.
cares? It's just
So,
one shot.
so kind of building on that, the other thing I told him is this, and again, my kid's 9 years old, so we're talking youth hockey here. But what'll happen a lot of times in drills is I'll just say the drill's not paced appropriately. So what'll end up happening is, 2 or 3 shooters could be coming down at once, or it might be one. And he's doing what you're saying. Like he's very competitive. So he wants to save all of them. But what I've told him is, if you're out of position and not set on a drill, unless you feel like you have to do it, don't take your time, but get set and take the next shot. Maybe skip a shot and take the next one. Is that fair? Right? Because what ends up happening, David, as you can imagine, he starts jumping side to side. It's like you're not even playing goalie now. You're just diving in front of pucks. Right.
Yeah.
So I told him that, you can let a shot go by. That sounds right.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, if you're out of position, don't try and dive back into position. Especially there's a lot of drills where you've got maybe 3 or 4 shots coming at you at a time from the other end, sort of thing. They come in a row, and
Right.
sometimes the guys bobble the puck. So the next guy, if you're supposed to be 10 feet in front of the guy in front of you, and he bobbles it, so now these two guys are basically 3 feet apart, and they're going to shoot it one after another. Just kind of take the one, just work on positioning. Just get in position. Also, if there's 3 shots in a row coming at you, I always tell my goalies, don't go down for all 3 of them.
Right.
Work on staying on your feet, because I don't want your first reaction is to go down, no matter when someone shoots it. I don't need your first reaction to be to drop to the ground, because a lot of guys will shoot it high. So if you're a good goalie and you can learn how to stay high and just get your gloves out there and use your hands and direct it into the corner or catch it, for the first 2, that's good. And then work on the third shot that comes in. Now go down if you have to, and go down on that one. So don't necessarily have to jump around, because as soon as you go down on the first one, you're probably not going to get back up in time to regroup for the second shot. And then the third one's coming at you, and who knows if you've already slid a little bit out of the net or moved off position. So just stay on your feet and shuffle with the first couple shots, and then the last one that's coming down, then treat that like a game shot.
David, one of the reoccurring themes I'm starting to notice on these episodes, and Mike's been on all of them too, is that a lot of goalie coaches saying, you don't have to drop on every shot. And I've actually been telling that to my son that, that shouldn't always be your first reaction. It's staying up as long as you can, as you just said, is part of the position. The goalies to drop, especially when you're that age and you're using full size nets. I mean, they're going to shoot high if you do that. All right, last one on this one. This one goes from Mite all the way to men's league or adult league. Warm-ups. Oh man, I get frustrated with kids I coach and even my own teammates sometimes. I've always said, yeah, the warm-ups are for us to get warm, but you gotta warm up the goalie. And when I see guys come down in the first 30 seconds and do 4 dekes, I'm like, you're an a-hole. Or I've seen guys hit my goalies in the head. I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So can we just talk about proper, and this is from youth on, proper warm-up techniques for goalies and how to best get your goalie, who is the most important player on the team, warmed up for the game?
Yeah, that's definitely, you don't want to hit them in the head. Definitely don't want to hit them.
Yeah, bad idea.
I know.
Right?
I remember playing and I took one in the throat, and and it off topic a little bit. It hit me in the throat, and I couldn't breathe, and I bent over, like leaning on my pads, and I woke up on the ice on my back. So I mean, that goes to show how important it is to not shoot it high. I mean, I took it right in the throat and closed my airways, so that kind of sucked. But that, to your point, don't hit them in the head. Don't try and pick all the corners possible, because a lot of the times when the goalie's in net, he just wants to be able to feel the puck hit him, off his legs, off his hands, off his chest. He just wants to be able to get the feel of that. And then he moves out of the net. So when the goalie moves out of the net to kind of, skate around or do whatever, then pick every single corner you want to. That's what I always tell my players. When the goalie's out of the net, do whatever you want. I don't care. There's no one in the net. Pick corners, shoot as hard as you want to. But when the goalie is actually in there, make him make a save, right? Like, just kind of get his hands going, get his legs going, get his eyes going. Just that's the stuff that you have to do, instead of just trying to be, I went go home and say, "Hey, I scored 20 goals in a warm up." Like it just no one cares.
On my
But what they
goalie.
care about,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, nobody cares. They care that your goalie's warmed up, ready to go for the game.
Yeah, and able to play in the game. I mean,
Right.
you watch
Yeah.
you watch these guys, like I'm watching kids like in warmups and they're shooting pucks from the corner and the goalie's watching the shooter up in front of them. I'm like,
Mhm.
I always gave my goaltenders like, listen, if you get hit in the back of the leg in warmups, feel free to go after that kid.
Yeah.
He's all yours. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a great point. Like a lot of youth players think, oh, well, I'm going to light this kid up in
I
my
think
warm
it's
up, and I'm
every
like,
youth player, Mike. I think it's all
every
of them.
I just look at these guys like, I mean, aiming's aiming, right? If you can aim for a pad, you can aim for a pad. Just aim for a pad. Just
Mhm.
look, try to hit the goalie, like David's saying. Goalie gets out and he does his little routine, then rip some pucks on the net. Go nuts. But
Mhm.
I think it's and it's funny you say that because there's a lot of I've gotten down this rabbit hole of different warm ups, like different warm up routines, and I've seen so many in the European system now that have actually during warm ups they have two nets in the zone and one net is shooting on the goaltender and the other guy's ripping pucks on the empty net that's on the other side of the goaltender just so they can catch and shoot and rip pucks, and it just gets more kids in warm-ups,
Mhm.
Right.
which is like, it gets your shooters an opportunity to shoot as hard as they want, get your
Mhm.
goalies an opportunity to kind of feel their crease and feel where they are in the net. But I thought it was I'll have to look it up, but I think it was like a Danish team or one of the Scandinavian teams. It was an interesting warm up that they tried to say, listen, we want our goaltenders to warm up properly, but we also want our shooters to be able to, rip some shots. And it
Right.
was an interesting dynamic. It was fun to watch. Kids seemed to like it, and it kind of set the pace for the warm up to kind of expedite a little bit. I think, and especially at the youth level, like where Lee and I are at, these kids get like a 3-minute warm up. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like they're getting a 20-minute warm up. They get
If
three
that.
minutes. Get
Yeah.
out there. I think so. Maybe real quick, maybe you could talk a little bit about what are kind of the routines that you have your goaltenders that you work with go through before they get on the ice. Like, are they completely separated from the team? Are they doing their own thing? Are they
It's a
doing
great
the
question, Mike.
juggling?
Yeah.
What are they doing so
Yeah.
that if they only have 3 minutes, you can't expect a kid to be warmed up anyway. So what are they doing prior to getting on the ice?
Yeah. Obviously, goalies are very different individuals. So a lot of them have their own routines. But for me, I always want them, get the balls off the wall. Like just start juggling off the wall, or just kind of. For me personally, I would throw the ball. I would probably stand 6 feet, 7 feet away, and I would have a tennis ball or whatever, and I would toss it as hard as I can. I would chuck it as hard as I can just to get my hands going real quick. And then you got to get your legs moving. So they play a little bit of soccer. That's what I always tell them. Like play some soccer, play some through ball with the guys, and you have to be part of the team. You can't just be over here and doing your own thing. So you want to be part of the team, but you also want to get your hands and your eyes going, because the players don't necessarily need that. They're not saving shots with their hands, so they don't necessarily have to do that. I mean, I've seen guys actually coaches take their players outside of the arena, get the arena guy to give them a net outside, and these guys are firing pucks in the parking lot or behind the arena at the nets before they even go out for practice, because like you said, there's only 3 minutes for a warm-up. So these guys are shooting pucks like 20 minutes before they have to go on the ice outside in the parking lot, which is different. But yeah, for goalies, it's just they're all just going to be different. But you got to get your hands going for sure. You have to get your eyes going for sure, and obviously your legs, and get your stretching routine going, and but also be part of the team, be part of the guys, because you need everybody on the ice to be together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, David. It's funny. Last thing on the warm-ups, I received a great compliment last night in my adult league game, Mike, where typically I'll warm the goalies up because I want to shoot in the pads the first 10 shots, and then I start to just get them moving. And our goalie came up to me like towards the end of warm-ups. He goes, "Lee, will you shoot on me, please?" I was like, "Why? You all right?" He's like, "No one is doing this. I just need someone to shoot on me correctly." I was really flattered by that, but I would say to the players out there and the parents listening, and David, you can comment on this too. Ask your skater to be a leader in that regard. All right, and yeah, I'm actually going to segue this into another topic here that I want to talk about, but I don't think there's anything wrong. I've had many teams where I've played, especially when I was playing competitively, where a goalie and a player had a great relationship, and that goalie wanted that player to warm them up. It was part of the routine, and I think that's really important. And I'll tell you, look, even at the mite level, and again, I've become more sensitive to this now that my kid's a goalie. I will totally admit that. but even before he was a goalie, I get angry sometimes at even on my players when they come in and just dangle. It's like, what we've said this all season, right? You have got to let this kid warm up, you know. So again, David, feel free to talk about that. I think it's good for goalies and players to have a really good relationship, and that, you know, the goalie gets what they need, even if it's one friend or a couple friends, just understanding, hey, you know, I want 5 here, 5 there, or I want this kind of routine before the game.
Yeah, for sure. You still see it. I think even a couple goalies, I know AHL guys and even some NHL guys, I think like to have a couple of players just shoot on them at the beginning when everyone else is kind of skating around. Like they'll even take some time. And like you said, they'll just take 5 shots to the glove or 5 to the blocker. You know, everyone has their own routine. But for me, the things I don't like to see is like guys just if a goalie's standing there, just don't shoot 5-hole. Actually, the guys I play with, a lot of them are ex-pro or university guys. They still shoot 5-hole on me all day long in warm-ups, and not one of them hits me. Everything just goes. I stand up there and everything goes 5-hole. It's like you guys just hit the pads. So that's the one thing is yeah. If you have one guy in your team that you like to warm you up, and he's going to shoot to your glove perfectly and your blocker perfectly for you, 100% ask him to do that because it's it is warm up for the goalie at the beginning. It's also warm up for the players, but when the goalie's in the net, warm them up properly. And if that does take somebody, just one guy to do it, and that's what makes the goalie feel comfortable, then do it because the goalie's not going to stay in net for the whole warm up. He's eventually going to go off the side, and then you can shoot. So, and let's be real, most of these kids shoot at home for the most part too, or practice all day long. That's all they do is shoot, shoot, shoot. So it shouldn't take them 3 minutes of just firing into the top corner to be ready to shoot whenever you have to shoot. So that's they should be ready. Take a couple shots and you're kind of good to go. You can feel it.
Yeah.
I play out the odd time too. You can feel it whether or not you're going to have a day when you're shooting it or not.
That's
right?
so true.
It's like you brought your hands or you didn't bring your hands. So
yeah, I've had many games, David, where I was like, I guess I'm passing tonight.
yeah.
The other thing too is that, just for anybody who's trying to be a sniper, I used to go to the side and try and hit the letters on the boards, like on the dasher boards, just pick a spot, see if you can hit it. It doesn't always have to be the net, just some advice there. But David, I want to transition this here because we're kind of talking a little bit about communication. I think something that's lacking at a lot of levels is kind of the understanding that the goalie sees the game differently, and that it behooves you as players and coaches to learn how that goalie sees the game and how to communicate on the ice. What does the goalie want in a certain situation, or how does he want you to react? Defensemen should have no issue with this. I mean, I talk to goalies if I'm playing defense. Where do you want me to be? Do you want this shot? Do you want me to take the shot? In terms of taking them out of the play. So 2 questions here. One is, how important is that communication? And then the other question is, what are some of those questions, or what can we do to increase that communication? Thinking from kind of a youth coach point of view, what are some of the questions you should be asking your goalie of how do you want to play this situation?
Yeah, most goalies are comfortable in taking a shot straight on, obviously. So if you've got your defenseman in front and they're kind of boxing out, that's basically a goalie's dream because he just wants to be able to take that shot. Now he knows there's no second weapon that this guy's going to go to is going to fire past me. If he makes a pass here, I'm confident that my D-man is going to have that guy box out, lift his stick, and he's not going to, if he does pass it, it's going to go right by him. There's no chance of him scoring other than maybe hitting a skate. But for the most part, you want to take that shot straight on as a goalie. I personally used to love cross crease passes. I didn't like a guy being able to walk right in. I would rather have a guy go to him and then make him make that cross crease pass because I used to love to get across real quick and make that save. But a lot of goalies would prefer shot straight on. But it's tough as a goalie. I mean, if you let the guy walk in 15 feet on you, you're thinking in your head, can somebody get him? Like somebody go get him. And if they don't, then it kind of messes with you because you're like, oh man, like this guy's got a ton of time to pick wherever he wants to go. Am I in the right spot? Are my hands in the right area? Like, do I have everything covered? And that goes through your head super quick. And so it is for a goalie to say to the D-man, hey, if this guy's walking in and he's got a ton of time to walk in, I want you to go to him. I'll take the pass across, but I want you to jump on him so that you now don't let him just shoot it. Now he's got to make a quick decision whether he has to shoot it real quick or if he has time to make a pass. So, but it's going to be different for each goalie depending on what they like. But I would say 90% of them want you to, if it's just going to be a quick shot, they want to be able to see it, obviously.
Here's something I think about too. And again, I take this into a kind of effect as a player. I want to bring it back to the goalies. I take into account when I'm playing, angling, squaring up, like everything the goalie has to do, especially in a defensive situation. So my mindset, if I'm playing D or I'm in a defensive position, is okay. First thing is if I can eliminate the shot altogether, I want to do that. So I'll typically try and get a guy to go to his backhand first. All right. But that doesn't always happen. So if it does, then my attitude is I want to split the ice in half for my goalie. So he knows it's going to come from this side of the ice. And I'll lead with my stick. I'll push the guy out to the left or the right. And then I'll start yelling, shots coming. Because I want the goalie to know I'm going to give you the shot. Right.
Mhm.
And he might yell at me, take the play or something, go take the player. But I always give the goalie the first right of refusal on how they want to take the play. But from a player awareness standpoint, understanding their job in net and squaring up and angling and knowing that if you cut the ice in half and you've communicated with your goalie that you're going to do that, it can slightly change maybe how you're going to play, or you can be a little more confident it's not going to go cross ice if you don't want that, David.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think there's enough of that communication where, this is the teamwork aspect of a game, right? And positions understanding each other, that you can really help your goalie, really help them make a save and make it easy on them. Like you said, if you're squared up and you're in the right position and your D or your defensive players have helped you do that, man, your percentage of a save are going way, way up. Right. So can you talk to that for a minute?
I don't think enough players, to your point, really think about, hey, if I cut the ice in half, the goalie's only gonna have to make a save from this side. That's huge. And I always kind of try and tell the guys that same thing. Like if you cut off the options where he can't go to the other side of the ice, now the goalie can concentrate on this is where the shot's coming from. Right. And then they know that they're confident that you've got that pass, you cut that off, and this guy's only option is to shoot it from this side of the ice. So that's huge. And a lot of coaches, I think that's a really good point to let your players, all of your players on the ice, realize that your goalie will have more confidence in you, especially when they know that you've got this cut off. And if you do the drills like that, where
Right.
you really work on that, where you work on, hey, there's no options for this guy to pass to on this side of the ice. So now the goalie is definitely he knows that the shot's coming from here. So he needs to know, the goalie needs to know where the first shot is going to come from. After that, who knows? Could hit a shin pad or whatever.
Yeah,
So
of course.
at that point, it's the goalies. The goalies, everyone has to react off that first shot. But if I have time as a goalie to get square and be there and take that shot in the chest, most likely I'm going to be able to smother that puck, and there's going to be no rebound. So, but it's all because of the help of the players that have actually cut the ice in half for me, or even just not even in half. If they can get it down to a quarter at that point, and you just know the shot's coming from this angle, and that's it. Other than that, everything else is covered. So coaches really need to kind of reiterate that to players, like, hey, let's work on that. So the goalie, just to help our goalie out. He's not just there to make saves. We got to help him as well, and by covering certain guys.
Well, look, I'll say this too. There's a trust thing here as well, right? Building trust in your goalie or having your goalie be confident. I love the relationship with my goalies when they know I trust you to make this save if I place this player here. I think sometimes we see D jump up and I'm like, well, what are you trying to say? You know what I mean? So I think that's important, is that there needs to be that trust. And again, my thought on this too, and David, Mike, please feel free to join in. I think sometimes this can be solved with really a simple 15-minute conversation. Just bring your skaters over to the goalies and have the conversation. Where do you want me to be? How do you want me to play this? Right? How do you not want me to play this? Right? Am I screening you? Do you not like it when I'm at the top of the crease or the players at in the slot? Right? And look, just to equate this back to the NHL level and how the game evolves, I think the antithesis to this is guys like McDavid and guys like Nate McKinnon, who do not skate in a straight line. If you watch these guys, they never skate straight. They are weaving, and McKinnon's known for like three crossovers down the ice. That's the game evolving, because it's tough to track. It's tough to get those guys just to go left, right? Because they can go right just as good. So yeah, David, one more thing now for me on the position is I want to talk about, again, kind of rounding this out, the mental side of the position, right? Because I can't think of another position in sports like this one. You're not going to score a goal, most likely. It's highly unlikely, I'll say that. The puck's either going in or it's not. It's like we say about coaching. When you lose, it's the coach's fault. When you win, it's the players did it. Not so much for goalie. Goalie can win a game. We've said that, but you got to be mentally tough. And I'm going to equate this back to my son again. And I hope I'm not getting groans from the listeners, but I am excited about his journey. But one of the conversations we had this year, and we can take this from Mike all the way up, David, is he was starting to, in some games, I could see lose his mind a bit when he was getting scored on, or, a team would go up. If he was a tough goal late, and I sat him down and I said, look, Logan, you don't have to be perfect at this, but you need to be working on your mental side of the game, that the puck is going to go in the net. And we have to find some methods for you to accept it and move forward very quickly. And I did tell him this too, David. I said, you are allowed to be frustrated and pissed after a goal. Like, who wouldn't be? I'm not going to tell you not to feel that. That's ridiculous. I said, but it's like 10 seconds. You got 3 minutes to feel whatever 3 seconds to feel what you're feeling. You got 3 seconds to kind of review what happened, 3 more seconds to get yourself calm, and then 1 second the game's going. So I said, but that's the process. And to his credit, I mean, he's really been working on it. He's not perfect. He's never going to be, right? But he's worked on that. How important is that side of the game outside the physical aspects of goalie, and how can we work on that?
That's huge. I always tell every goalie that I ever work with is that you have to be, I'd say, even more mentally prepared than physically prepared to play. I mean, there's a lot of goalies out there that they just get 2 or 3 goals scored on them in a game. They just buckle.
Yeah.
They just don't have it in them to fight and keep going. It's not even just goalies as well, but the players are the same way. You see benches where a couple goals get scored on, and next thing you know, everybody on the bench is sitting down. That's like, what are you sitting down for? They scored 3 goals on 3 shots. Same thing as a goalie. They just scored on you. They just scored 3 goals on you. Okay, so now you battle back and you play hard for the rest of the game, and then you give your team a chance to go down the other end and score 3 or 4 more goals and make it a game, get a win. But if they see you just kind of mentally shut down after you let a couple of goals in, they're going to have no confidence in you now for the rest of the game, because they're going to be like, well, he's pissed. They got 3 goals scored on him, and now he's not going to do anything about it to help us get back in the game. So now they feel like they have to play a totally different game in front of you because you're not mentally strong enough to just sit there and work and work and work and just keep battling through it. And I think goalies that are really good mentally, they don't have to be, I mean, obviously no one's going to be perfect mentally or physically, but you don't have to be on the top of your game physically. If you're really mentally strong, you know where you need to be in the net. You don't have to be the most physical specimen to be able to move and have like crazy reaction time. But if you're really good at your angles and you're really mentally strong, they know that they're going to battle. You're going to battle for the rest of the team for the whole game, no matter what happens. Your players are going to have confidence in you, and they're going to have your back all the time. So 100% mental is a massive, massive part about being a goalie, and that sometimes makes a difference between a lot of times makes a difference between a good goalie and a goalie who basically kind of shuts it down in, 14, 15, 16 years old and doesn't make it to the next level, because a lot of times they're really good goalies, but they can't get past the fact that they get 3, 4, 5 goals scored in a game. I was actually at an Oshawa Generals game, an OHL game, and they lost, I think it was 10-2 the other day, and I felt bad. They had their backup goalie in, and he got peppered for, I think, 5 goals, and they pulled him out and they put the other goalie in. He got 2, and then they put the other goalie back in. He got 3 more goals scored on him. You could just see how dejected he was. And it's a tough one. It's tough, but you're still going to be there. You're going to be the only guy in the crease, and people are going to be looking at you every time a goal goes in. So you have to be mentally strong enough to say, you know what, I'm here. This is my position. I'm going to battle for the whole game, no matter what happens. As long as you battle and you say, I've tried my hardest. I gave it everything I had for the whole game. The outcome, really, I mean, sometimes it's not the way you want it to be, but you can go home saying, I tried my hardest. I did everything I could do in the net that day. So you can't necessarily pin it right on me. And it's a team game.
David, I totally agree. I want to reiterate what you just said. There's a lot of wins in a game, and it's not always the final score. And the other thing you said too that I think is really true, and Mike, I think it's one of those things that kind of knew it, but now that we're talking about it, if a skater kind of quits, it's manageable. It's not fun on the bench, but it's manageable. Goalie quits, the game's over, right? And the whole team feels that when the goalie doesn't want to play, and Again, going back to my kids team, one of the joys of Might Squirt Hockey is there's going to be those games you just get destroyed. And I can always say to all the kids on the team, this is not just my son, they never quit. They just don't quit. And I was able to tell my son that, you not quitting makes them keep going. You're still making huge saves or big saves when you're down 10, 15 goals. And some of these games are like that. Your team, they see that. And trust me, the coaches see it and they say it. Like Logan's not quitting. You guys, and then they don't either. So I just, from a mental standpoint, from a team standpoint, coaches, parents, players, it behooves you to enable that position. Hopefully your goalie is a good kid off the ice too, but from a positional standpoint, enable that goalie. And staying on the mental health stuff, mental fitness stuff for a minute. I think that every goalie is a little different mentally. Some people want every goalie to be calm. Some people want them to be angry. I grew up in the Hextall era, which was a different era. And then, now you see guys that are doing like a lot of meditation before the game. I think, David, that, from a mental toughness standpoint, there is no right way. You got to find that what works for you. A very calm goalie that meditates and nothing seems to bother him is just as mentally strong as a goalie that might get a little, fiery when they need to, for lack of a better word. There's also times it can go too far, but whatever their process is for competing, right? We got to respect that, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like exactly what you said. I've seen goalies out there that get wild. They're crazy. But they don't stop competing. But that's their personality on the ice. Sometimes those guys that are on the ice that are, they're screaming and yelling like during the game, and that's how they play. They play hyped up, are really calm off the ice. And sometimes the other way around. Some guys that are really kind of high strung off the ice, when they go in the net, they're really calm. They're focused.
Right.
That's just, and like you said, you can't teach a goalie to be a certain way mentally in the net. They have to find what's going to help them battle through a game and be mentally tough through the whole game, and not even just the game, practice as well. Because if you're going in practice and your goalie is letting absolutely everything in and not trying, there's no second effort or even third effort in practice. What you learn in practice and what you do in practice is what you're going to do in a game. So if you are you're lazy in practice, of course you're going to be lazy in a game. Sure, you might be better in a game, but there's going to be times in the game where you just revert back to the laziness that you were doing in practice.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is you got to try and work as hard as you can in practice so that when it's game time, you're buzzing out there for the game.
Yeah, I'll say this too. I used to do goalie scouts for games when I was working in Europe. And one of the funny things is because I think warm-ups are a little bit poor over there at times. Mike, you'll like this, but I used to love warm-ups because they'd show me their weakness spot. Goalies, if you're not careful, you'll show all of your weak spots in a warm-up, and it's typically because you don't go for that shot, right? If I see a goalie let in 5 glove saves in a row, okay, that's something. But I'll notice if a goalie's just not making blocker saves in the warm-up, I mean, you're telling me something, and I'll be honest, those scouts were usually correct with what I'm seeing. So I think you're right. Look, you practice hard so the games are easy. And think about this too. You bring up a great point about practice. The goalies that I've played with or coached that were animals at practice, man, those teams did good because they were just always challenged. They were always challenged. It was a constant, I want to score on you and you want to stop me attitude. You practice that all year, you're going to bring that to games, right? So I think that's another great point. Mike, again, I'm hogging the mic. Do you want? It's my fault. Do you have any questions you want to ask? Mike's sitting in his car. Everybody who's just listening to this, he's been doing this whole episode from the driver's seat. God bless you,
Mike.
That's
all good. No, that's all good. I love it. Listen, it's a lot of it's funny. We always get a lot of on these goalie episodes. We have a lot of the same, like a lot of people feel the same way, but it's just different ways that you're presenting it and different ways that each of us as coaches can, like me, I like having 2 goalies that compete against each other. Like I would expect the defensemen to compete against each other. I mean, and the one benefit we have as skaters, right, is that, if you're, to Lee's point with the way he's working with his son and David, how you work with your goaltenders mentally, like if I have a defenseman that's having a brutal game, I could literally put that person in a box for a little bit, during the game and kind of walk them through this and get them back out there. No problem at all. Goaltenders don't get that opportunity. So it's a whole different way to think about what are you going to do as an individual to reset your mindset within all these different pieces of the game? And honestly, we probably should be doing that anyway with the skaters on the bench as well, so we don't lose them for swaths of time. But you can hide a player that's not having a great game. It's really difficult to hide a goaltender that's not having a great game, outside of taking him out of the game.
Right. And like you said, if a player goes on the ice and he has a tough shift, if he can come off and you can speak to him and you can say, hey, you need to do this better or watch for this. And at least you get a chance to talk to him and kind of maybe settle them down. And once then they get a chance to go back out on the ice and kind of work on what you just said. If a goalie lets in a goal, they're not going to come to the bench and you don't get a chance to talk to them and say, hey, this is how you were. You were a little bit out of position. You misread the play. You don't have that. So mentally, the goalie needs to be strong enough on their own and work hard in practice and with their goalie coach to realize, I was out of position on that one. That was on me, and you just you have to work on that. So that's why it's even tougher to be a goalie mentally. Is that you don't have anyone to talk to you afterwards. The players can come down and say it's okay, don't worry about it. But after that, the players aren't going to come to you and say, hey man, you were out of position on the first shot. That's why that one went in. It's just not going to happen. So you're on your own little island at times.
Right. What was that quote, Mike, that I forgot who said? How would you feel at your job if you made a mistake, a red light went on and 20,000 people cheered or booed? What was that? Somebody said that one time.
Yeah, it's exposed, right? Or you tell the coach is sending out the defenseman going, hey, the next whistle, go out and tell him he got to get on the post more. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like that's, he's gonna slash me right across my shins.
Yeah.
Save the puck next time, huh?
Hey, I don't understand why you're not saving the puck. I mean, well, let me ask something, David. On at the youth hockey level, what do you feel about when goalies? Because we talk about the mental aspect of a goalie, and we're expecting them to do so many different things that a player needs to do sometimes. Do you feel when do you feel it's appropriate that a goalie gets to play a full game as opposed to an automatic split, or is there a hard and fast rule that you try to go with that you have two good goaltenders or two you've picked two goaltenders, right? So I mean I'm not a starter backup guy at the youth level. I picked you for my team. You're on the team. I mean, imagine if I told four of our defensemen, no, you're the backup defenseman. We're going to play these three are going to be our main defensemen, and then you four might get into the game every now and then. How can we do a better job as coaches with goaltenders to really, make sure that, obviously goalies going to earn more time, but when do they earn that time? Not just playing better, but when is the time and what is the age you think, is the best time to start splitting kids or start playing kids for full games or playing, finding that kid that's now going to play the bulk of the season. I don't know. It's always a debate we have, at the youth level for sure.
That's a hard one for sure. Because like you said, you picked both goalies, they're both on the team for the same reason, to stop the puck. And it's just, youth hockey is different than say playing, I don't know, junior hockey or, even starting to get up into the different levels of pro. When as a goalie, who the clear-cut starter is and the clear-cut backup is. When they're 10 years old or 12 years old, they don't necessarily know that. They're really working hard. So they're looking at you as a coach to try and develop them so that they can be the starting goalie. Sure, sometimes, the team's going to have a goalie that's much better than the other goalie at 12 or 13 years old. So, the goalie who's not quite as good wants to be as good as the other guy. So as a coach, that's kind of your job, is to help that kid who maybe not as good as the other one. You have to try and help him develop to get to that point and, really work with him to get there. And I don't think putting them on the bench saying, hey, we're going to start Jimmy or whatever over here for the next 3 games and you're just going to sit back and watch. I mean, that doesn't do anything for the development. I think you have to let them get their playing time. And you really have to work with them hard in practice to give them the confidence, because sometimes when you, as a goalie, you think you're the backup goalie, you think you're not as good as the other guy, you go in the net and you're like, oh no, is the team going to be confident in me? What if I let in 1 or 2 goals? Am I going to get pulled right away? So it's good as a coach to just say, look, you're here for a reason. This is why I picked you. You're on the team. We think you're good enough to play. So we're going to give you a chance to play. I like to split games until, I don't know, maybe 11, maybe, I don't know, even about that age. But then you got to start getting them into full games because they have to start getting used to playing a full game. I mean, that's the hard thing, is that get out there and play a full game. And now you guys know we're just going to go every other game. Unless you're hurt, then, or you're just not feeling well or something like that, then maybe we'll start a guy two in a row, or be strategic on the teams that you're playing. This guy plays better against these two teams, so
Yeah.
this guy's going to play 2 in a row, and then this guy's going to play 2 in a row, and then we'll go back to 1-1.
Right.
But you really have to communicate to the goalies because that's huge for them.
David, one of the common themes on all of our shows, and Mike and I talk about this all the time, and I would say 10 out of 10 problems are typically caused because of poor communication. Not 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And I think that, there are some maybe older school coaches, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, that think, well, let me not tell them who's playing till the last second. Or let me not communicate because that fear will keep them ready to go. I personally don't agree with that. I don't know where you stand on this, by the way, while I'm saying this, but I think that, there can be too much communication sometimes with this, but what is the proper way to communicate to a goalie, who's playing, or here's some things I want you to do.
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a proper way to do it. Some goalies are different. Like you said, if I told the goalie 3 days out, hey, you're playing against this team, well, maybe for the next 3 days, he's going to be worried about it. And some goalies would rather you say, you know what, just tell me in the morning. I don't care. Just tell me in the morning. Then I'm good. Then I can get myself pumped up for the game for that day. And if I have 3 days in advance, I'm anxious. So now I'm going to be worried about it, especially if it's a backup goalie who's not used to playing, and all of a sudden now he knows that he's playing. He could be anxious for 3 days. So you expect all your goalies to come to the rink ready to play, no matter what. I could say this guy or girl is starting the next day, and then they come in the day and say, "Oh, you know what? I don't feel well."
Right.
Well, then the other goalie now has to play, but they wasn't expecting to play and wasn't really ready. So you always have to be ready at all times to play. So I think you kind of have to ask your goalies at the beginning of the year, how do you feel about, like, when should I tell you?
Right.
I'm not sure I'm the coach, but when are you comfortable knowing that you're playing?
That's a great question. I bet you that's a great question. I bet you a lot of coaches might not ask, right? Especially at the youth levels. All right. Speaking of questions, last one from me. We actually do this a lot on our non-goalie episodes, and I'm realizing we should probably do it on the goalie episodes too. We're big proponents here, like the car ride home is not for coaching right after the game. But I think it is important to discuss messaging and conversations with your goaltender as a parent. So with my son, I try not to talk about any of the games after the games, but one thing I will ask him is if he's frustrated or he got killed, the team got killed, I do ask him not in a negative way, but I say, hey, do you still want to play goalie? And the answer is always yes, right? Which is awesome. I'm always amazed sometimes, especially some kids, you still want to do this? Yeah, I really do. I really want to do that. So that's kind of how I know, okay, we're doing it right. But what are some of the, you're the dad driving the goalie home, or it's the next day. What are those conversations, right? What should you say? What shouldn't you say? Assuming that the kid even wants to talk to you about it.
It was funny for me because my dad was the complete opposite of the way you're talking about. My dad was like, you got in the car, we won 3-0. My dad's like, how did you let that rebound go out in front of the net? Like, you just ripped me the whole time and just like really like just beat it into me. Sure, he would give me the positives of the game. Great, you played well, but you should have done this here, you should have done that there. And there's a lot of parents that are out there that actually still do that to their goalies, and it's tough. It is tough, but it builds you mentally. I personally think that if you get in the car with your goalie on the way home, or even your player on the way home, the first thing you should say to them, not necessarily the first thing, but if you're going to talk about the game, just give them something positive. Say, hey, you played awesome. You may have lost the game, but you played really well. You did this really well. I mean, you were really tracking the puck, and your rebound control was great. Or as a player, your passing was awesome today, and your coverage was great. Then you say, how do you feel about it? Like, what are your thoughts on the game? And let them kind of lead the conversation to, if there's anything that they feel like they need to work on, or if they're upset about anything, almost let them lead it. Because sometimes if you sit there and you kind of point fingers at them, then they're already feeling like crap if they've lost. And then now you're actually shoving it down their throat. It's not going to make them feel any better, first of all. And second of all, they're going to sit there and think, like, do I even want to do this anymore? Like, I don't think I want to do this. I already feel bad enough playing on the ice. Then I get in the car and my parents are ripping on me. Like, some people just don't want to, some kids don't want to hear that. And they just say, you know what, forget it. I'm not playing hockey anymore. And it ruins it mentally for them. But I think it's easier just to kind of let them lead it. If they want to turn around and say, hey, like I was terrible on this and that. Well, if they say I wasn't very good at this, just say, look, that's fine. There's more games to play. There's more practice. You can keep working on it. You can work on it at home. If there's anything I can do to help you, then let me know. If not, the coaches will help you out. But you have to express your opinion or your concerns to your coaches so that you guys can work on it together as a team. So I think it's just one of those things where you kind of have to let them lead the conversation.
Yeah, I think is it's funny as parents or as adults, I should say, we always want to talk about the game, or I should say most of the time we want to talk about it, but we got to be conscious to the kid and I think the advice we've kind of gotten from all of our shows is if you really want to talk about the game, you really feel strongly about it, listen first and let, as you said, David, let the kid initiate that conversation. You could probably have a pretty good conversation. But if your kid says, like, I don't want to talk about it, respect that. All right. Like here's that other truth, right? I know enough about goaltending to be kind of dangerous at my kid's age. He's played goalie more than I have. Like, that's the truth. I've never been in the net like him. He probably knows more of what it is in that experience than I do. And here I am assuming like I know everything you should be doing. And at some point the kid's going to say that, like, you never even played. You shut up.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. A lot of non-goalie parents will tell the goalie what to do, but like you said, you've never been in there. They don't know what it's like to face shots when someone's screening you or like all in your face. They just don't. They don't get it. They've never been there. They've never had that pressure of being a goalie. And I just think that just let the goalie get, or even the player in general, just let them develop. You can't force a development on them. You have to, let them develop at their own pace or what their coaches are teaching them. But as a parent, like let them, of course, you're going to sit there and say, I saw this in the game and I saw this when I was sitting in the stands or I was behind the glass. I saw everything, but you don't know what was in their head while they were making that play. Right. So it's tough to kind of point fingers at them. It's definitely, you have to be definitely positive, but there's times where you have to be, constructive criticism too, where you kind of have to say, hey, you know what, you may have thought it this way, but this is exactly how it was. And that's why a lot of coaches do video as well, because sometimes on the ice you don't see, or you think that it happened a different way than it actually did. So but you just can't throw it down their throats, that's for sure.
Right. I think my favorite one, Mike, you'll have it this, when it's young kids first getting in net. I think my favorite one is, hey, stop flinching. Stop flinching. Well, hey, man, you get in net and have people throw these things at your face and then you stop flinch. There's a right way to explain that. Of a way I did that was, hey, they're going to come at that, at that direction. You got to be ready. Stop flinching. Make the save.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I tell my goalies too, because you do get goalies who they flinch, and it's not necessarily because they're afraid to get hurt. It's just that they're not focusing on the puck properly. Right. So I always tell them, just almost pretend that there's a word on that puck that you're trying to read, so that you're actually going to focus on that puck and read like any kind of word or logo on the puck.
Yeah.
Like, really focus on that. Try and see it. Try and read it, and you're going to be able to, your eyes are actually going to be able to focus a lot more on that, and you're not going to be worried about where the puck's going. You're just going to be worried about focusing on the puck, and then use your technique and all your skills to make that safe. It's just one of those things is that people just see the puck come off the stick and they're not actually focusing on it. So you actually really have to give them something to focus on. That's why I try and tell them, if there's words or logos, really look for it. Like, really, it comes at you fast.
Yeah.
But you still have to be able to focus. Yeah, right.
Yeah, these are the same people, by the way, that when they're standing behind the net in a warm up, are ducking out of the way with the glass in front of them. Like it's human nature. David, real quick, I want to just talk about Backup Goalie Life and make sure we get that website out there. You get some really fun stuff on that site.
Yeah, that was actually something I just kind of created during COVID. I love hats, and I probably made about 50 different logos for Backup Goalie Life. I sent it out to a bunch of my buddies, and we all kind of said, the Bug Life one was the really cool one. So I've done a few different logos. Actually, the one I'm wearing right now is the brand new logo that it's actually not even fully out there yet. So, but a lot of people love this logo too. So that'll be a lot of fun. And it was just for me to do something during COVID, to be honest with you. And it picked up real quick. And there's a lot of stuff out there: hoodies, t-shirts, toques, hats, beanies, as you guys call them. So But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
He's Canadian, by the way, if anybody was wondering.
Yeah, they're always, what's a toque?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's just it's a lot of fun. Back in goalie life. It's on there. It's on. I just started up my Instagram on it too. But yeah, that's just comfortable wear.
Yeah, if you're looking for some fun stuff or to insult your men's league, adult league goalie, just head over there and get him a backup.
That's right.
No, great stuff, David. Really can't thank you enough for coming on today. And like we said in the open, there's a lot more to you than just one moment in February of 2020. And I think we dove into that today. And I just want to thank you for, honestly, look, all you do for the game, not just from that moment, but you seem to just really love hockey and you're a great ambassador for the game. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me here. It was awesome. Definitely a different an interview. Really cool. Kind of going into the coaching side of things, which I love to do. I mean, once you've kind of stopped playing at a high level, it's great to give back to all the youth and just get out there and see them grow. There's nothing better than having a kid for 3 or 4 years and watching how they develop underneath you and the things that you're teaching them, and they're actually taking them, and they're getting better, and they're enjoying the game at the same point in time. So I love to coach and give back. So being able to talk coaching stuff was really cool.
Oh, wait, listen, that might have been the highest compliment you could give us. So we appreciate it. And
yeah,
I think we need to let Mike out of his car. I doubt there's a good lumbar support in there. We got to release him. Mike, thanks for sitting through this.
I'm very comfortable in here, but yeah, I got to get back to lifting up a bunch of 5-year-olds off the ice. So
there you go. Well, Mike, thank you for being here. David, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Goalie. Remember, you can hear this episode, every episode we've ever done of Our Kids Play Goalie and Our Kids Play Hockey at ourkidsplayhockey.com. Make sure you check out all of the gift section there. That's how we support the show. And if you or your friends listen to this, share it in your team snap, share it on your Game Beast, whatever you're using to share to the parents. Do that. Otherwise, have a wonderful week, everybody. Thanks for listening to Our Kids Play Goalie. For David Ayers and Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. See you next time. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.